Hi everyone!
Hello.
We're back again for our final video while Laura is here.
Going home today.
Yes, very
So-
sadly. But this is now the last one of all the videos that we
Yeah,
had to
I know.
do, so we managed to get them all done and our throats survived, so we thought we were going to lose our voices
You
at one
talk
point.
a lot.
Yes.
We talk a lot.
Even when we're not filming.
Yeah, I know.
So, but anyway, what this video is about, as you can probably tell from the title, is that we're going to be talking about Poldark Series 3. Now, when you were last here, I think it was about halfway through the series, wasn't it?
Yes.
Something, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Because that's right, we thought we'd wait until...
Yeah,
because
till it's
we knew we weren't be able to meet up right after the first episode aired like we did last year.
Mm-hmm.
So we thought we'd wait until the end of the
Yeah.
series to talk about it.
Yeah.
And this was a bit of an interesting one. I liked it, don't get me wrong, I really enjoyed it, but knowing the books, I was a bit like...
I think it was...
Not, and by that I don't mean annoyance, I mean they really changed sequences of events which made some elements really not work. And
I think it was less good than the previous two series,
yes,
if I'm honest. It was.
It felt a lot more like they were going, especially the last couple of episodes, like 100 miles an hour. Just, we're going to cram all this information in this very short amount of time. Because they messed with the sequences, like Demelza, Ross and Hugh Armitage thing, that goes on for ages, whereas in this, it was crammed down to the last few episodes.
It was like literally she met him and then an episode later she was like kissing him. It was weird.
Yeah.
It was very odd how it just went from 0 to 100 in no time at all. It was strange.
Yeah.
It was strange.
Should we talk character by character?
Go on then.
Okay. I want to start off, because it's very prominent in the first episode, with Elizabeth. Now, with Elizabeth, obviously, I forgot to say, we're going to be talking in depth about what's happening, so there's going to be spoilers.
And all that jazz.
Yeah, all that jazz.
Yeah.
With Elizabeth, she's really irritating anyway, in general, for me, at this point of the story. She's an absolute bitch to Morwenna. She's just so, like, annoying. But I especially didn't like the depiction of her, like throwing herself downstairs and stuff like that. I get why she did it and everything, because the whole thing of, she's feeling that she's having labour pains, and that means, and it's a month before she should be due if it was George's, so that would mean it was Ross, so she's got to cover it up, all that jazz. But then at the same time, it's just a bit like, so you're seriously saying you endanger yourself and your baby to cover that up? Okay.
Yeah.
Because in the book, she is in the midst of labour on the very first page.
Right, okay.
So you don't get any of that before stuff. She didn't have Valentine until the very end of the first episode. And it was all a bit funny with her, like, kept on going on long walks and making her horse nearly go off a cliff.
I mean...
And stuff like this, and it was just a bit...
Women in situations where they have to pretend that their husband is the father and in actual fact he isn't, I can kind of give her a little bit of room for that. What I don't give her room about is what happens later on when she's like, I have to do it again. Well, no, because all pregnancies are different. All babies are different.
Yeah.
She could have just given birth naturally
and
said the baby was a month early.
Yeah.
She didn't have to induce labour in such a violent manner.
Yeah.
Which probably would have made the birth harder for her anyway.
True.
Because she would have been hurt.
Yeah.
But I think Elizabeth's story in this season was how to make a manipulator better. Because she manipulates the birth, and then she manipulates George into believing. And I mean, I've got to say the MVP of this season for me was Jack Farthing.
Yeah.
As George. I thought he
agree.
did an amazing job.
I completely agree
as
with
George.
George goes on this weird roller coaster in this one. They did change one thing with Aunt Agatha, which I'll mention when we get to her later.
Yeah.
To do with George, but like the bits when he like broke down crying on the beach in the series finale, and I was like, oh, George, I actually feel quite for you in a minute. But then he did other things, which, as he said, was actually fantastic. Where he became a judge, and he deliberately said that a man was innocent of rape because of association, when he clearly wasn't, due to an association with who was it?
Oh, it's a very
Dolphin, but what's his name?
Godolphins.
The Godolphins.
A very prominent Cornish family
who George desperately wants to be friends with, and because of that association, he set him free.
Yeah,
and it was just like, oh, George, no.
Yeah.
So yeah, there was some weird and wonderful things there. But anyway, back to Elizabeth. She's become best friends with opium. That's.
To be honest with you, though. Right, I had Petherton when I was giving birth, right? And you've got to be in a lot of pain for this to really take effect.
Yeah.
Look, I get it, okay? It's great. But she did become an addict for a little while, and then that kind of went away, which I thought was kind of a bit...
I think though, it was with George being away.
Yeah.
She didn't have so much of a stress on her shoulders, and she had Geoffrey Charles again, being a mother again, like she should have been all the way through. But anyway, the whole thing of her treating baby Valentine, badly and neglecting him,
her deliberate neglect of him, punishing him,
is so sad.
So sad.
It's in the books as well. It's not something that they've made up.
And it sets up Valentine to become what he becomes.
Yes,
because they say that if a baby does not have human contact, substantive human contact, that the brain doesn't develop properly. And that's probably what happened to Valentine.
Yeah, I agree.
So, bless him.
Yeah.
Although I know he becomes a dick. But the baby,
Valentine,
deserved better than that.
I found it so interesting, though, also because there's a bit where they go out to London and Elizabeth finds out that he's got it's rickets, isn't it?
Rickets, yeah.
And George is horrified. How could a babe of mine, a babe of society, have rickets?
Yeah.
We must shut him away at once and not let anybody know.
Which is the worst thing you can do for rickets, because they need fresh air and exercise and vegetables. That's basically it, isn't it?
Yeah. But it was just a bit like, oh, for crying out loud. But anyway, George, yes, he was being the arrogant asshole that he is as usual, and yes, he tried to the whole thing with the grain, the grain plot where Demelza and Caroline were going around asking for donations to feed, and he had this whole plot thing, and they were going to go the next morning and they were going to find all this stolen goods and everything, and they turned up and they're literally just handing out grain. Thank you for your lovely donations. And he was horrified and mortified, but he had to show that it didn't affect him.
Yeah.
That was really, really good, that one. We also obviously had his continuing battles with Ross, which was a bit, but there was more...
At this point, I don't know why they don't just get, like, a measuring tape, quite frankly. I get it. George cannot let it go.
Yeah.
Like, cannot let it go.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, just stop it. But he's not going to stop it, is he?
He's not. And complications with Elizabeth's cousin arriving. Morwenna.
Beautiful Morwenna.
Beautiful Morwenna. Morwenna is, Elizabeth's cousin, who her and her mother are falling on a bit of a hard time. And they go to visit George to ask if, because, obviously he owns bank, ask if he will help them out. And he said, why don't you come be nanny for Geoffrey Charles?
Yeah.
And Elizabeth has no idea about this. He just turns up with Morwenna going, she's our new nanny, deal with it. And has to. And she hates Morwenna.
She does.
Absolutely.
She hates Morwenna because Morwenna reminds her of what she was.
And in the book, which was not really depicted in the TV series, George really warms to her.
Mm.
He likes her company.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like sat, like, you know, in an evening by the fireside, and Elizabeth's in the corner sewing, watching them, and they're having a conversation or reading or something. And it's just a bit like, oh, awkward, this is awkward.
Well,
so...
Yeah, Morwenna is wonderful because she becomes Geoffrey Charles's mother to all intents and purposes.
Can we talk about Geoffrey Charles in a minute after we finish?
Oh my God,
Morwenna?
that boy!
I love him.
That boy is becoming the king of shade.
Yeah.
He is his great grandmother.
Yeah.
Really?
Morwenna. Going back to Morwenna first.
Great aunt. Great aunt.
Great aunt,
yes.
Yeah, because she's, Elizabeth's aunt, yes.
No, she wasn't. She was Francis's aunt.
Oh, Francis's aunt, sorry.
Yeah.
No, I'm getting my lines muddled up in my head. So Morwenna's arrived and she's absolutely stunning and beautiful. And of course, she catches the eye of new boys in town.
Drake.
Well, one of the new boys in town.
Drake and Sam.
Drake and Sam.
Who, I have to say, look like they've just stepped off the cover of Vogue.
Yeah,
those
they do.
two men are beautiful.
They do.
They are both gorgeous.
They are Demelza's brothers.
They are.
Who have come to live in the area after their father dies in the very first episode. And what Sam is we've got to spread the word, the gospel. He's very religious. But he got that from his father after he became very religious.
I love it. I love when he meets Emma Tregills.
Tregills,
yeah. Because she wants to show him more than just Bible
and
scripture.
he's tempted.
Yeah,
and he's like, look here, go back to the Bible.
Yeah.
I need to find a passage that will get me through my thoughts, kind of thing. But it's like, Sam, it's okay to love, and Drake loves wholeheartedly.
He does.
And yes, he is religious, but not to the same degree as Sam. And he tries to tell Sam it's
kind
okay.
of clings to it, doesn't he?
He tries to tell Sam it's okay to let it go. Just Dad, we're not under Dad's roof anymore. We're not having it thrust down our throat 24 hours a day. So let it go.
Yeah.
But he can't. But knowing the books, I can tell you, Sam does let it go.
Thank God.
After a while,
I'd like to see him without his shirt off.
He's still a religious man. He still teaches and that, but he allows his heart to love. So there you go.
Good.
But Drake's one. He and Morwenna together are just.
Their chemistry is lovely.
Their life. They're wonderful.
They are wonderful.
They are like. For me, that funny, warm feeling that you get when Ross and Demelza first got together in the early period of their marriage.
Those were the days. Because damn it, that don't happen no more. Yeah. I mean,
should we get onto that when we get to them? Shall we?
Yeah.
Let's wait until we get to them.
It's a mess.
But Drake and Morwenna are amazing. Her Elizabeth, being the bitch that she is, forcing Morwenna to marry, is just awful. It plays out differently in the book because in the book there's this whole thing about going to France to save Dwight, which we'll talk about in a minute. And whilst they're away, Morwenna is married, and they come back and realise that this happened. Whereas in this, she doesn't marry until like the following week, and they turn up at the church and they see them coming out. So it's the timeline isn't quite the same. But Drake just loves wholeheartedly. He's just instantly attracted to Morwenna.
She is to him.
Yeah. And because of them spending time together, and Geoffrey Charles loves Drake, he becomes like his new best friend. It's almost like the three of them are this really close kind of family unit of father, mother and child. With Elizabeth and George going off to London and taking Valentine, it's like they've got free run to do whatever they want.
It's like Geoffrey Charles has inherited Ross's wildness somewhere along the line.
Yes.
And his love of, and his ability to communicate with people of a lower class than him.
Do you find it interesting? I noticed this a few times, and especially rewatching the DVD, that whenever Elizabeth refers to Geoffrey Charles, she always refers to him as Uncle George. She never refers to him as father or anything like that, or stepfather. Nothing like that. It's always Uncle George. I find that really interesting. Like, she can't quite believe it herself that she's married him.
I think she's got some... She's just so messed up as a person. I think my problem with Elizabeth, and I know a lot of people on Tumblr are saying, oh, you know, you don't like Elizabeth because Elizabeth's a woman and she makes tough choices and blah, blah, blah. It's got nothing to do with that. I don't like Elizabeth because she, in a world where you have Caroline, you have Demelza, you have Agatha, you have Verity, you have all these women who have their own agency and do things for themselves. There's Elizabeth who just sits there and waits for either other people to do things or she gets so eaten up with self-loathing because she can't bear to do without, which is what she would have to do to get her own life. And I do judge her for that. I'm sorry, I do. She does things and says things which are unforgivable. There's no actual real reason to deliberately neglect a baby.
No.
She could have loved Valentine. And like she
definitely.
did with Geoffrey Charles. But she chooses not to.
It's very interesting with that when you say that as well, because if you look at another person who becomes a mother in the series, in Morwenna, when she is forced to marry the most evil and disgusting creature ever,
and is raped repeatedly.
In the book, she's raped pretty much every day. And beaten every day. They don't really, but they do cover her being raped a couple of times, but they don't cover her being beaten and stuff like that. So they only partly go into her
you get the idea.
But with her child, she finds it very hard at first to love the child because she knows who the father is and everything, and the corruption that could happen. But as we're going to see in the next series, she comes to realise, okay, this is a child, and I'm mum here, and I can give this child all the love possible that I can in my heart.
Yeah, you know, you do. I remember in EastEnders there was a storyline where a woman was raped and she got pregnant.
Oh yeah, Little
Mo, and her husband Billy could not cope, could not deal with the idea that she wanted to keep the child, and her argument was always, he's my child. It's not that he's not the man that did this to me. He's my child of my body and my blood. In a sense,
you could also say like the adoption of a child in regards to, you don't. Let's just say, for example, that child's parents had done horrific things and such, but those parents, biological parents, aren't raising that child.
No,
it's the child is being raised by this couple, and that doesn't, and their values will be passed on to that child.
I mean, like almost like in Happy Valley, where Catherine is absolutely, again, her grandson is born of rape.
Yes.
And I thought at first that they were going somewhere that perhaps that Tommy Lee Royce was in love with, but clearly not. That is not what happened.
No.
But she's convinced that Ryan will become like Tommy. And in being convinced of that, she will make him into that.
Yeah.
I think if, like Morwenna with her baby, I can't remember what the baby's called. Do you?
Oh gosh, I've completely forgotten. It's a really bold.
I'm not even sure they called.
I don't think they actually referred to him
to his
having a name.
No,
in the series.
Either way, Morwenna chooses to love this child because he's the only sort of port in the storm, isn't he? And
it's so interesting.
I think that's an admirable choice.
Yeah, the child is named because her husband chooses the name.
Yeah.
And very clearly, obviously, she just loves this child wholeheartedly, and that makes his character not match his name. And then when she has another child later on in the books, which is away from the page, it's referred to that she's had a child. She calls her Lovejoy.
Lovejoy.
Loveday, not Lovejoy. Sorry, I was thinking.
Yeah.
Wrong program. But don't you find that such a beautiful Loveday?
Yeah.
It's just wonderful.
Yeah.
But she is a character who loves wholeheartedly. She's so perfect for Drake.
Yeah.
And
but
I love that.
It's interesting, isn't it, how there are two babies.
Yeah.
One born of lust and passion who is neglected.
Yeah.
And one born of rape who is loved.
Yes.
And they are both totally different characters as far as their grown-up selves go.
Yeah. And technically there's a third baby born because of baby Clarence.
Yes.
But we'll get to Clarence, then we'll talk about Ross and Demelza. So yes, so we've covered Drake, Morwenna, bit of Sam, Elizabeth, and bit of George.
Yeah.
Do we want to talk about Morwenna's husband, the toe-licking evil reverend who just... He's so disgusting. The guy who played him was
great.
Brilliant.
Great actor.
They didn't quite go as...
He made my skin crawl, so that's good.
Yeah.
The toe thing, I don't know how that actress did that without going...
Well, no, apparently I saw this... I'm subscribed to this page, and they do like discussions every episode, and they went on set and they met people and talk. And apparently she was just picked at random. They literally did the various auditions. Like, they had like a collection of people for like a background and extras.
Yeah,
they literally just picked her out of the crowd and went, "Do you mind if he sucks your toes?" She's like, "Whatever." Right, get on the bed, stick your foot in the air, and that's how it happened. He literally went, "Hi, nice to meet you, let me suck your toe." It was... Oh, poor thing.
Poor thing. Yeah.
Okay, so
and he put on like 3 stones.
Yeah, when you see a picture of him before, it's like, he's stunning.
He's
like,
a very handsome man, isn't he?
Yeah.
But he obviously put weight on to play him.
Yeah.
But he plays him brilliantly. What's his name? Christian Bressington.
Yeah.
Plays him.
There he is on the DVD. I'll try and hold this up so you can see. There he is. Mr. Wentworth. Yeah. Aussie.
See, the word Wentworth has terrible associations for me too as an Outlander fan. So like, I can't really like. Do you know, there's a program called Wentworth Prison about.
Oh, is that?
Yeah, about like a modern day prison called Wentworth Prison. Yeah. And I saw that. I said, I honestly cannot even make myself watch that. If there's any Outlander fans out there, you know what I'm talking about, because that shit was...
Should we talk about...
Painful.
Geoffrey Charles?
Yes.
We kind of went off the path,
yes.
Didn't we? But that's what we're like, aren't we?
My shady prince.
I love Geoffrey Charles.
That boy is the king of shade as far as this season goes.
And I love that he and Drake are so level and they play off each other. Like there's this whole thing of George is terrified of toads and frogs. Because Ross, when he was younger at school, used to put them down his trousers. And he hates the noise of them, and he has the pond at the house gutted of all frogs and toads and all that lot. And every night Drake returns and puts some more in and puts them back.
It's a warm summer.
It's a warm summer.
They just reproduce like Billy-O, don't they?
Yeah. And he's like, "What's that sound? It's frogs!" And Geoffrey Charles is just laughing his head off.
And I love as well when he gets Drake arrested for something that has nothing to do with that.
For stealing the Bible that wasn't stolen.
Elizabeth says, "What did he do to you?" He goes, "He put frogs in my pond." And she looks at him like, are you for real? Are you really for real?
Yeah. But then he's a judge, and it's, he knows that because the Bible cost a certain amount that he'll be hung for the crime. But
hanged for the
crime, sorry.
Yeah.
But Geoffrey Charles gave it to him as a present. So
he did.
He
did.
But Geoffrey Charles is just awesome.
Such
he will do
a great
anything.
little actor playing him.
Yeah. He'll do,
well.
but when we come to the next series, it'll be a different actor.
I know! I love that boy so much.
So good. But Geoffrey Charles loves Aunt Agatha.
Yes, he does.
Absolutely loves her. And she teaches him
her skills at shade.
Yeah. Like, I love... there's... in the very first episode, you get it when George comes home after being away for a bit and says... about changing his name, that don't you think it's about time you changed your name? And obviously he's indicating to be my name. And he's like, yes, I think it's about time I do. I will become Geoffrey Charles Francis Poldark. Oh God, what was Elizabeth's maiden name? Chenoweth. Oh, so
Chenoweth Poldark.
Chenoweth Poldark.
Yeah.
And he's like, and then just walks out the room, and I was going like, yes.
Because Aunt Agatha and Geoffrey Charles, they are just the king and queen of calling George out on his bullshit.
Yeah, they're the same coin, aren't they? Two sides of the same coin.
I just love it. I love it when he says something like that, and she just smiles. Yeah. I'm like, that's my boy. That's my boy.
Yeah. Or even like, because George has banned Morwenna from taking Geoffrey Charles near Poldark land.
Yeah.
And they're just on a walk, and she's realised, where are we? Like, oh, we're on Poldark land. But we can't be here. Like, there's no border. Yeah. Who says so?
Who says so? Yeah.
George isn't here. I don't care. So let's just do it. And like, even like going down the mine and visiting his uncle whenever he likes.
He kind of becomes the man that Francis had wished he was.
Oh yeah, even at that young age.
Even at the age of 12.
Yeah.
He's kind of more in tune with Cornwall and the Cornish miner than Francis, bless him, ever was. Yeah. But I think Francis's depression was because he compared himself to Ross constantly. But I think Geoffrey Charles... It didn't help that his
dad put that pressure on him.
Yeah, Geoffrey Charles has had the freedom to be inspired by Ross and by Francis, because he would have remembered when Francis managed to pull himself together.
I was going to say, Francis pulling himself together was when he would have his real proper memories of his childhood.
So he knows that his father was a good man who loved him, who did his absolute best. And unfortunately, I honestly think if Francis had lived, everything would have been so different.
Oh, of course it would.
Wouldn't it?
Of course it would. Yeah.
It's tragic, really.
Valentine wouldn't have been born. No. And all that weighs on Ross until the end of the very last book where he's finally lifted.
Yeah.
Never would have happened.
No, if Francis had survived.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
But leading on from Geoffrey Charles, we've got Aunt Agatha.
Oh, bless her.
Very sad to say goodbye to Aunt Agatha this series.
Caroline Blakiston.
Yeah. We raise our tea to you, my dear.
We do. Queen.
I mean, Aunt Agatha, her death in the book is a lot more horrific.
Yes, I mean, when I watched it, I was expecting it to be a lot more prolonged, a lot more. But then they're going through these books a breakneck speed.
Well, this is the thing. They tweaked with the timelines quite significantly in this series, and ordering of events and everything. So by the time you got to Aunt Agatha's death, it was about half, maybe 3/4 of the way through the series, I think. She dies at the end of the Black Moon, which would have been, because the Four Swans was the one that the second half kind of the series covers, but there are events right at the beginning of the series which are actually in the Four Swans. So they really shoved and rearranged everything this series, so it didn't quite work in that sense, and thus the Demelza Ross stuff got rushed. But in the book, you have Aunt Agatha getting ready for a party, and George says about how, what he does. But she's fallen ill. She's had a stroke, and she's in bed. And he comes in, and as usual, she's got a sharp tongue, and she lashes it out on him and everything. And he explains, just as in the TV series, that she's not actually turning 100; she's turning 98, and everything. And she says, I know how old I am. And he said, well, if you know how old you are, you'll know how to get out of bed. And he leaves the room, locks the door, and starves her to death. And that's how she dies. Whereas in this, she kind of has a reaction to hearing the news. It kind of implies that she may have had a stroke or something. Yeah. But from the news that George said, not from before. Yeah. So
I think it was just a quicker way of... And I also think, the fans of the show love Aunt Agatha so much.
They don't want to see her suffer.
They don't want to see her suffer like that. No. At the end of the day, she was going to die. Yeah. She had had her time. And she played her part.
Ross's reaction to her death is so interesting.
Yeah, and I think Demelza's reaction was so badly written.
But
personally,
because they've messed up with the timelines and everything, that bit within the letter that she refers to when that she messes up on what we really should be focusing on at that moment happens later.
Right.
But they had to shove it in somewhere.
Yeah.
And it's like...
Yeah. Because he's burying his aunt and Demelza goes over to him and starts berating him for some reason. And I'm like, he's burying his aunt that he loved, that he loved. He's literally burying her.
Nobody came to the funeral. She just gets dumped. Her coffin gets
literally
dropped onto the ground.
And she's a daughter of one of the oldest families in the county. And nobody goes.
Yeah.
It's so sad.
Yeah.
But having said that, I'm so glad that they changed the cover design.
Yeah, because it was black cloud. It was black cloud.
And I was like, it won't match. It won't match. It won't. But
I'm really going to miss Aunt Agatha.
Caroline
did an amazing
job. Yeah,
she's wonderful as Aunt Agatha. I loved her in the book, and I just knew it would take a really great actress to really bring the true Agatha out. And
her
she
faces,
did wonderfully.
her wonderful,
her wonderful lines.
Are you for real? Faces, or Lord save me from all these idiot children, or
FML,
or. Like I said before, I'm an 85-year-old virgin and I know how babies are made. Come on.
Yeah, I know. It's just craziness. But I'm really going to miss it. And with stuff that's going to be happening next series, there's going to be a lot of change. A lot of change. Something big's going to happen. And I'd love it. It was that thing that if Aunt Agatha was alive during those events, I think that would be very interesting.
Yeah.
How she would look up, but then...
She's played her part at her time.
Okay, should we talk about Dwight and Caroline?
Yeah.
Okay, now, I liked Dwight and Caroline, what they did with them this series, but at the same time...
I didn't love it.
Yeah.
Sorry,
I didn't love it.
Now
the thing is, in this series, so at the end of the last series, they got back together again, and Dwight went off to, join the Navy and all that, and be a medical person on boat. And in the very first episode of this, they are reunited. Ray Penman is seriously ill, but they reunite to get married in the very first episode, and then he's called away to deal with Elizabeth, which doesn't happen in the book at all because he's not there. And sadly, Ray Penman dies. But Caroline's able to show him that she's wearing a wedding ring, and that she's happy, and that she's okay, and that means that he can die peacefully. And that was a really nice way.
That was a lovely moment
for when he passed. But then you have this massive issue that I have. That okay, Dwight gets captured in France. The ship gets attacked, and he gets captured, and he's shut up in prison for like a year. And it's basically in the book. It's almost like the Holocaust, kind of how
concentration camp.
Yeah,
sort of
it's
deal,
that kind of fit. Yeah, Ross doesn't recognise him when he sees him. He is so weak and so thin he can barely walk. He's got a massive beard and everything, which they kind of played in the series, but still. And he goes through hell with post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, after he gets back, which you can totally understand.
Yeah.
And the prison, they did okay. Didn't go quite as deep and dark as I wanted to, but they did okay. Yeah. And he did act well in it, and that when he got home and he just collapsed on the ground and started crying because he was in England again. He was safe.
Yeah,
that was well done. But then the PTSD thing, he did it in one episode,
and then it kind of went away.
And then it went away,
and it wasn't there anymore.
Yeah, and it was like, right.
But the thing,
but they did so much rushing and reordering, and it was just like, and like, for example, Caroline Dwight's marriage doesn't happen until after he is rescued and he's gotten through his PTSD. Whereas in this, they get married in the very first episode, and then he goes away and gets captured. You know, it's.
I hate it. I hate it. I'm sorry. What's her name? What's her name? The writer, Debbie Horsfield. I'm sorry, but I really disliked how, hated is the wrong word, that's not the right word, disliked how Caroline Penvennon, badass Caroline Penvennon, essentially, after he went, sat on a sofa. Sat on a sofa and waited.
I know she couldn't do much, but still, it was just a bit like,
And it was like, no, she was the woman that was riding horses over the Cornish cliffs. This girl she's an aristocratic kind of adventurous.
Yeah.
And she gets married and sits on a freaking sofa.
Yeah.
I was like, come on.
Yeah. She's no longer. I know she's no longer in society because she's not in London. But even last series, when she wasn't in London and she was looking after her uncle and that, she still went to parties and stuff like that. Not that I'm saying that she has to go to parties every night, but still, kind of give her something
to do. Yeah, that isn't waiting.
Yeah.
For Dwight.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I know she goes on that charitable mission with Demelza, but I do think that Caroline was a bit wasted this season. A little bit wasted.
But then so was Dwight.
So, yeah. Because once he got back...
That was it.
They didn't...
and isn't it weird that one visit from Hugh Armitage suddenly cures his PTSD?
Yeah. And it doesn't work that way.
No.
It doesn't work that way.
This is why, because I was saying to people in a group that we're in on Facebook, I was saying it's going to take a long time for us to see the Dwight that we know and love after he gets back from prison, and then next thing I know, the episode airs, and it's one episode, and then he's totally fine.
Yeah, this is only 9 episodes. It should have been 10.
Yes,
it should have been 10.
It needed
more room.
It needed a breathe, because the last few episodes it was like bam, 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 bam.
Yeah,
like, geez, I need to breathe.
Yeah.
It's, but what they did, I really enjoyed the series. Yeah. It was just too much, too fast, too crazy. Yeah. But yeah, should we go on to Ross and Demelza?
Yeah. It's a shit show, guys.
Yeah, Ross and Demelza are having some issues.
It's just,
to put it lightly. Okay. Ross is right. There's still the underlying tension, and there always is in their marriage until the very end of the last book, that Elizabeth is having his child. And of course, Ross and Demelza have to deal with that, but they know it, but they don't talk about it, and it's all a bit...
Their mutual ignorance on the topic is sort of, kind of like a silently understood mutual ignorance on the subject is very well played by them both, where they're like, oh, right, okay. Let's not talk about it.
Let's not talk about it. And there was this whole thing of Ross could have become a judge, but he said no, and
because he's an idiot.
And then he got offered another job and then pity that, and he ignored, and he said no, and all that lot, and Demelza got really angry with him again, and it was just like, and that was when they were arguing, with the letter about Aunt Agatha came through, because there was news from George about how he was becoming an MP as well, and it was just all a bit crazy. But Ross and Demelza are in a really weird place throughout this series. Yes, they have their lovely moments, like when Clarence is born, and when they get the grain mission done and stuff, and helping Caroline and Dwight be reunited, and him going off on dangerous missions to France and leaving Demelza alone. And she was so grateful when he came back, and that was really lovely. But then at the same time, you've got these huge, like, boulders that divide them, and they have these really petty squabbles, and it's like, not that I'm saying that they can't have petty squabbles, because then it's not realistic. That's marriage.
I assure you, petty squabbles is normal.
It's what it is, but then at the same time, it's like, but what they're arguing about, and when they're arguing about it, and everything, it's like, because they've flipped stuff around so often in this series, it didn't work properly.
I think my favourite moment actually from the series, and I loved this so much, was when Drake was shot. And Ross is rowing like hell to get them to the boat to take them back to Cornwall.
Yeah.
And he sees Caroline and Demelza and Elizabeth. Is it Elizabeth?
Yeah, and Verity.
Verity in Nampara.
In Nampara, with their dead bodies on the table.
With bodies on the table. Yeah. And it's the idea of the women in his life turning on him.
Yeah. And go, how could you do this?
You've let me down, kind of thing. Yeah. That really motivates him to get them back to Cornwall.
Yeah.
And I thought that moment was beautifully done. I need Ross and Demelza next season to have some time.
Yes.
Their actual marriage to have some time.
They need it, especially with Hugh Armitage coming along and tempting Demelza.
See, that was so rushed.
Yeah,
wasn't
it was too rushed. Now, in the book, Demelza meets this man because he was in the prison with Dwight, and he got busted out of the prison with Dwight. So that's how he.
I'm not going to lie, he's kind of gorgeous.
He is gorgeous.
He's really gorgeous.
And for the first time, while this is all happening, Ross is off doing other stuff and not talking to Demelza about things, and she's getting really frustrated and upset. And then this man comes along who just gives her a compliment, and then she's like, oh, that's really sweet of you. And then they start talking, and she realises that they share the same interests. And it's not something where she's just going, fuck you, Ross, I'm just gonna go for this guy because you're neglecting me, yeah. That's not the case. She properly falls for him.
Right.
And it's like, Ross has his first love with Elizabeth, who will always stay in his heart. And yes, Ross for Demelza is his real pure love, but she can't help but have something in her heart for Hugh.
Yeah.
They each have somebody who's not the other person in that marriage, who their heart also belongs to. And it's like, if you can go off with Elizabeth, or you can have room for Elizabeth, let me have room for Hugh.
It's funny because there's an element of that in Outlander with Claire's marriage to Frank. Now, I don't like Frank. Frank is he's such a complex character. I could talk about it for ages, but we're not talking about that now. No. But the point is that she meets Jamie, marries Jamie out of necessity, and then falls in love with Jamie.
Yeah.
And Jamie allows her, because she has her wedding ring to Jamie and her wedding ring to Frank.
Yeah.
He allows her the space in their marriage to love Frank.
Yeah.
But he is man enough to realise that does not overshadow her love for him.
Yeah.
Her love for him is a far bigger, deeper, more passionate space than her love for Frank. But Frank, like Demelza, met him very, very young, married very young, and she still has a love for him.
Yes. Yeah.
But it's not the same as the love and the passion she has for Jamie.
Yeah. I don't understand. Well, I don't know if this is just because I've read the books and all that lot. I don't understand how there are a lot of fans I've seen like comment on Twitter and all that going, oh, I can't forgive Demelza for what she did and all that. And it's like, yeah, but you can forgive Ross for what he did with Elizabeth.
Oh, you know why.
That's
Hashtag, you know why.
Yeah.
If a person has a vagina, the rules are different, and that's just the way it is.
It's just like, well, that's not fair.
It's not fair,
it's
but
not
unfortunately,
fair
it's. But I don't actually think she did anything with Hugh.
No,
I think she got so far, and then pulled back and went, "Do what I
and
actually can't do
book.
this."
It's like in the book. She turns up very late. She's been out all day. They both know that she was with Hugh, and she just says, I can't talk about it.
And he respects that.
And they don't talk about it.
And they don't talk about it.
Yeah. He will be in the next series.
Yeah.
He has to be in the next series.
Yeah.
In order for some stuff to make sense.
Do you think they'll do a time jump?
Right, here's the thing. In the books, right, because we are at book 6 at the moment, aren't we? Yes, 6. Book 7 happens. A monumental event which makes everybody.
Ah, yeah.
I love that. I just had to so very quickly mouth it to you without doing the full.
Oh yeah,
just for the camera, just for the camera. Yeah. It's just going to shake everybody up.
Yeah.
And then at the end of book 7, there's a 10-year jump.
Mm-hmm.
So Jeremy is about 17.
Oh my god, I can't wait to see
Clarence is about
15.
15.
Yeah.
Belle, who we haven't met, she was born in the 10-year jump.
Isn't it Bella?
Bella. They call her Belle.
Right, okay.
That's why the last book is called Belle Poldark.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't it? Oh,
yeah.
Whatever. Belle. Who cares?
Yeah. I think she is born in that gap, because I'm pretty sure she is around in that gap.
And then there's Henry,
and then Henry is born during the course of the remaining books.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, because he's about 5 or something by the time the last book ends.
Right, okay. Oh my god, they're still...
Oh, yeah. He's
at that point,
he's a titch little boy. At that point, yeah. So yeah, I think the last book ends and Belle's about probably about 15. She's an actress. She's become an actress. So yeah.
Well, God knows she's got 2 parents who have had to do a fair bit of acting in their time.
There you go.
Yeah,
she adores Shakespeare.
It's probably a product of. Well, let's just pretend it's not happening.
Yeah, but I think that it's going to be very interesting because the next book is going to have an interesting strain in Caroline and Dwight's relationship.
Yeah, I just hope they do it justice. Honestly, I'm just like...
I know that they've got 5 series. I don't know how fast and loose they're going to play with cramming all of the books into the final 2 series, or if they're just going to go, we'll do 2, and if we manage to get 6 series to do the last 2 books, we'll do that. If not, then we won't.
I think they will.
Right.
I think the BBC have probably already got the contract signed and sealed. They just haven't announced it.
Yeah.
That's all.
That it's there's going to be a lot of shift and movement in the next various stuff.
Yeah.
But for this series, there have been some really great cinematic moments, like the crashing of the waves, cutting into playing with
the music
editing,
as well.
of guns going off in the prison and everything. And is Dwight okay? We've had really beautiful music.
Henshaw's funeral, that quartet.
Yes, Henshaw's funeral was just stunning.
It was.
Absolutely. Oh, we didn't mention Prudy. Prudy. We've got to love Prudy this series. I mean, there was the. Oh no, there's that. And I've also remember something else with Prudy. There was an event that put a strain on Ross and Demelza's relationship in this series, and it was to do with a kiss in a church between Elizabeth and Ross, which was totally kind of innocent, but Prudy saw it, told Demelza, and that kind of caused some problems, right?
It just reminds me of Dawson's Creek. A kiss is not just a kiss.
Yeah. To get you to understand, for those of you who haven't read the book, that happens. Demelza finds out that day it's Judd, not Prudy, who witnesses it, but Judd's not in the series due to, the actor, he wanted to go off and film something else, which is fair enough. So, Prudy took on the role of both Judd and Prudy in this. So Judd witnesses it, tells Demelza that day, and it takes 10 months for Ross to tell her. And she has waited every single day for him to tell her, and every single day he doesn't. Yeah. And so you can, in that 10 months, Hugh Armitage comes along. So it's not, it's like she's like so frustrated that he's not talking to her. Yeah. That there's this big block in their situation. Yeah. And then this person comes along who gives her a compliment and goes, we're quite interested in the same thing. Do you want to talk about this book or music? And she really responds to it because she's being listened to. Yeah. It's sad, isn't it? It's so sad. All she needs is to be listened to. But Prudy's had some amazing moments in this series. I love Prudy. I love the moment where she was watching Drake bathe. and she's like, yeah. It was just like, oh god. She she plays her so well. Those Khan boys are beautiful though. They are beautiful. But even Drake was freaked out by her watching him, wasn't he? Oh, no, it was. Don't get me wrong. It was very, very good. It just wasn't my favourite season. Same here. I enjoyed it, but it didn't quite hit the mark for me. But then there was still beautiful cinematography. We had some lovely helicopter shots again. Yeah, we did. Series. We did. It was very interesting with them going to France and coming back again and all that lot. Lots of I loved like the when Morwenna, Drake and Geoffrey Charles went into that cave to the sweet water of the cave drippings. That was beautifully shot. It was. The little things like the bracelet that you gave her and how she always wears it, even on her wedding day you can see that she's wearing it, and how just beautifully stunning. And then you have the darkness of her marriage and also her sister being a slut. That's weird. Is that in the book? Yes, it is. But the whole thing of her being pregnant with his baby's a lie. Right. Oh, okay. Because she wants money. She wants money. Get those coins, girl. So she gets his money, gets the marriage to the boring guy. Yeah. And then the boring guy finds out. She reminds me of... Well, this... I love the fact that she's like, oops, my corset just ripped. God knows there's enough there for that to happen. Because damn, she's like, oh, stretch my foot. Oh, my shoe fell off. Oh, look at stroking her foot. Oh, how bad of me for showing my toes like this. It's just like, and she reminds me. Do you know the rapper Cardi B that I sent you? Yeah. Well, she said something in an interview that I saw of her. She goes, "No man will love me the way money loves me." Yeah. And she reminds me of that a little bit because she's like, "Get that money." Yeah. So yes, they've slept together, but she's certainly not pregnant. No, not in the slightest chance. and then that leads to what happens to him.
Can't wait. That man needs to die.
Yeah.
Needs to die.
Yeah.
I'm done.
Yeah. But yeah, he'll be leaving next series. At some point next series. And there's even been shots of candid photos of the actress who plays Morwenna sort of running along at the cliffs, and she's in a black mourning outfit.
So she's free.
Well, the people go, oh my god, who is this for? Who is it? We're freaking out. What the hell's going on? And I'm like, I've read the book, I know.
But do you think they'll show it in June again? Because Victoria will be back next year.
Yes, and depending,
I love Victoria so much.
I know it only be over 2 weeks, and depending on what's going on with strike as well, because they might want that to go up against Victoria, like it did this series, and beat Victoria for ratings. I don't know, but we'll just have to see. It probably will be the summer because it did very well, didn't it?
It did very well.
The summer.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. So now I think we're finished, aren't we?
Yeah, so it was a good series, not the best. It was a bit fast and loose with events.
Probably the best
bit patchy. But loved Geoffrey Charles, loved Agatha, Prudy, all the cast were great. There was some beautiful music, cinematography, the funeral that happens after it was just, there were some really stellar moments in it.
There were.
I'm a bit fearful about what's going to happen next, if the 10-year jump, what they're going to do with that.
They probably won't do anything. They'll probably just make the actors dress the actors slightly differently and cast older actors to play the children. And that will be enough, because 10 years in terms of aging isn't that much.
No.
Really?
No.
Is it?
No.
I mean, I look at pictures of me 10 years ago, I don't really look that different. I'm a bit tired because I've had 2 kids in the last 10 years. But do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not a lot.
No.
So I don't think it'll be like a huge, super dramatic thing. They'll probably just have like a chyron at the bottom that says 10 years later. Yeah. And that's it.
Probably. Yeah.
So.
But yeah, there's going to be a lot more stuff coming to Cornwall. Some more people, some craziness, some very sad stuff is going to happen.
Yeah. And
we're going to be bidding farewell to
a few people.
Oh, I can't wait. Yeah. But yeah, that's what we thought about Poldark Series 3.
Yeah.
So, and that's our last video done.
I know.
Aww.
All done.
Super bye to Laura.
I know. I'm going home today.
Yeah, but until next time we're able to meet up, and we'll plan a load of other videos as well.
No, it'll be probably December, I should imagine. Because, we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. But anyway, we'll see you guys later then.
All right.
Thanks for watching. Bye.